Most people think overthinking makes them intelligent. It doesn't. It makes them predictable. While you are replaying conversations in your head, while you are analyzing every word, while you are dissecting tone, timing, facial expression, someone else is watching you hesitate. And in hesitation lies power. Niccolò Machiavelli once understood something most people still refuse to accept. The world does not reward the one who thinks the most. It rewards the one who decides the fastest. Overthinking feels like control, but in reality, it is silent surrender. Tonight, we dissect the mind. Not the confident mind, not the bold mind, but the trapped one. And what you are about to hear may disturb you, because you will recognize yourself in it. Let's begin. Reality 1. Overthinking is not intelligence. It is fear wearing a mask. Overthinking disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers, I'm just being careful. I'm just analyzing. I'm just trying to make the best decision. No, you are trying to avoid pain. You are trying to avoid rejection. Avoid embarrassment. Avoid loss. Avoid uncertainty. The mind begins creating simulations. What if they misunderstand me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if this fails? What if they secretly hate me? The more scenarios you create, the more your brain believes danger exists. And here is the dark truth. The brain cannot distinguish vividly imagined threats from real ones, so your body reacts. Heart rate rises, muscles tighten, sleep weakens, confidence shrinks. You think you're solving a problem. You are feeding it. Machiavelli understood human fear deeply. In The Prince, he emphasized something unsettling. People are more controlled by fear than love. Now imagine this. If fear controls kingdoms, what is it doing inside your own head? Overthinking is self-governance through fear. You become both the ruler and the prisoner. Reality 2. The more you analyze people, the easier you become to manipulate. This one is dangerous. Overthinkers believe they are reading people. In truth, they are projecting insecurities. When someone delays replying, you assume meaning. When someone looks away, you assume judgment. When someone laughs, you assume mockery. Your brain fills gaps with worst-case narratives. And here's the manipulation game. If someone realizes you overanalyze, they don't need to control you directly. They just need to stay ambiguous. Silence becomes a weapon. Mixed signals become control. Delayed responses become dominance. You do the rest. You create anxiety. You create tension. You create attachment. The manipulator exerts minimal effort because your mind works overtime for them. This is what makes overthinking exploitable. Confident people move on. Overthinkers linger. And in lingering, they surrender leverage. Machiavellian strategy thrives on psychological gaps. If I know you crave clarity, I withhold clarity. If I know you fear rejection, I create subtle distance. And you spiral, not because I forced you, but because your mind did. Reality 3. Overthinking creates the illusion of control while removing real power. Let's talk about control. Overthinkers love mental preparation. They rehearse conversations, predict reactions, design perfect responses, but life does not follow a script. The more you try to control outcomes internally, the less you act externally. You delay. You hesitate. You second-guess. Meanwhile, someone less intelligent but more decisive moves first. And power belongs to the first mover. History proves this. Wars are not won by the army that calculates endlessly. They are won by the army that strikes at the right moment. Indecision is invisible defeat. Overthinking convinces you that you are preparing, but preparation without execution is fantasy. And fantasy has no impact on reality. Machiavelli valued decisiveness above morality. Why? Because action shapes perception. The world judges results, not internal struggle. Your mind may be brilliant, but if it never manifests into action, it remains invisible. And invisibility has no influence. Reality 4. Overthinking is often ego, not humility. This will sting. Many overthinkers believe they are humble. I just don't want to mess up. I just care too much. But look deeper. Why do you assume people are analyzing you so heavily? Why do you assume every word you said is under review? Why do you assume your mistakes matter so much? Because at some level, you believe you are the center of attention. That is ego. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to dissect you, yet you imagine they are replaying your awkward sentence, your slight tone shift, your pause. They are not, but your ego convinces you they are. Overthinking feeds on imagined importance. True humility accepts something liberating. You are not being watched as closely as you think. Once you understand this, you move freely. But if you don't, you remain chained to imaginary observers. Reality 5. Overthinking destroys charisma. Charisma is not about intelligence. It is about presence. Overthinkers are rarely present. They are evaluating themselves mid-conversation, editing words before speaking, analyzing reactions while listening. This splits focus. Half attention on the other person, half attention on self-judgment. Charisma requires immersion. When you hesitate before every sentence, you disrupt rhythm. When you overcalculate tone, you lose spontaneity. And spontaneity feels authentic. Here is something powerful. Confidence is not knowing what to say. It is being okay with whatever you say. Overthinking rejects that principle. It seeks perfection, but perfection feels robotic. Imperfection feels human, and humans connect with humans, not calculated scripts. Machiavellian social intelligence involves reading rooms quickly and acting fluidly. Overthinkers freeze in fluid environments. And in social dynamics, stillness often reads as weakness. Reality 6. Overthinking is mental self-sabotage disguised as protection. Your mind says, if I think through every outcome, I can avoid disaster. But what actually happens? You amplify risk. You amplify doubt. You amplify worst-case scenarios. The brain loves patterns. If you consistently overthink, it becomes default wiring. Soon, you don't even notice it. A simple text message becomes a psychological thriller. A small mistake becomes a character assassination. A delay becomes betrayal. Your mind starts hunting threats everywhere. And once the brain is in threat detection mode, it will find something, even if it must invent it. This is how overthinking turns neutral situations into emotional turbulence. Protection becomes prison. Reality 7. Overthinking attracts dominant personalities, and not always the good kind. There is something predators notice instantly: hesitation. In business, in relationships, in social circles. If someone senses that you second-guess yourself, they test boundaries. Small interruptions, slight dismissals, subtle dominance plays, and you overthink whether to respond. You debate internally. You rationalize. You hesitate. They escalate. Dominant personalities thrive around overthinkers because resistance is slow. Decisive individuals shut down manipulation immediately. Overthinkers rehearse shutting it down. Rehearsal never intimidates anyone. And here lies the dark magnetism. You don't attract dominant personalities because you are weak. You attract them because your hesitation creates opportunity. Power moves toward space. Overthinking creates that space. Reality 8. The mind that never rests cannot build power. Power requires clarity. Clarity requires stillness. Overthinking eliminates stillness. Even when you are physically resting, your mind runs simulations. This drains cognitive energy. Mental fatigue reduces decision quality, reduces emotional regulation, reduces strategic thinking. Ironically, overthinking reduces the very intelligence it tries to amplify. Sleep weakens. Focus fragments. Emotional control deteriorates. And without emotional control, you become reactive. Reactive people are easy to predict. Predictable people are easy to influence. Machiavellian thought emphasizes controlled emotion. The ruler must appear calm even in chaos. But overthinking creates inner chaos. And inner chaos eventually leaks outward. How many opportunities have you lost not because you were incapable, but because you were calculating too long? How many conversations ended in silence because you were editing yourself? How many risks were never taken because you imagined humiliation? Overthinking feels safe, but safety rarely builds empires. It builds cages. And here is the cruelest truth. The world will not wait for your internal debate to finish. Someone else will decide. Someone else will act. Someone else will claim the space you were analyzing, and they will not even know you were competing, because you were still thinking. We have dissected the surface. But this is only the beginning. Next we go deeper. We explore how to weaponize awareness, how to stop being predictable, how to convert overthinking into strategic calculation instead of emotional paralysis, how to adopt controlled decisiveness, the way Machiavellian minds operate. And what I'm about to reveal next will make you question whether your mind is protecting you or betraying you. Now we go deeper, not into motivation, not into comfort, into control. When awareness becomes a weapon instead of a cage, overthinking itself is not the enemy. Uncontrolled overthinking is. There is a difference between strategic calculation and emotional spiraling. Strategic calculation asks, what outcome benefits me most? Emotional spiraling asks, what if everything goes wrong? The first builds power. The second erodes it. Niccolò Machiavelli never advocated blind action. He advocated calculated action, but calculation with a time limit. That is the missing piece. Overthinkers calculate endlessly. Strategists calculate briefly. The key is containment. If you do not put a boundary around thought, thought will consume you. Powerful minds schedule thinking. Weak minds drift into it. Here's a technique used by elite negotiators and high-level strategists. They decide the thinking window before the problem. I will analyze this for 15 minutes. I will prepare 3 possible outcomes. I will choose one. Once the timer ends, the decision stands. No revisiting, no rewriting, no second guessing. Why? Because decision momentum creates psychological authority. When you stick to your decisions, your brain begins to trust you. When you constantly reverse decisions, your brain loses faith in your leadership. And if your own mind does not trust you, why would anyone else? The hidden addiction of overthinking. Most people do not realize this. Overthinking releases stimulation. It creates intensity, drama, emotional charge. Your body produces stress hormones. Your brain feels engaged, alert, occupied. In a strange way, overthinking prevents boredom. And boredom is uncomfortable. Stillness is uncomfortable. Silence is uncomfortable. So the mind creates problems to solve, even when none exist. This is why some people resolve one worry only to immediately find another. It is not coincidence. It is dependency. Drama feels productive, but it is artificial productivity. True power is quiet. True power is the ability to sit in silence without manufacturing catastrophe. Most cannot. That is why most remain mentally exhausted. The social cost no one mentions. Let's speak about relationships. Overthinkers slowly exhaust people, not because they are bad, but because they are uncertain. They seek constant reassurance, subtle validation, hidden confirmation. Are you sure? Did I say something wrong? You seemed different. At first, it feels like care. Over time, it feels like pressure. Confident individuals make interactions lighter. Overthinkers make them heavier. And here's something brutally honest. People are drawn to emotional stability, not emotional intensity. When your mind swings between imagined highs and lows, you create invisible instability. You become unpredictable in emotion, even if you appear calm outwardly. Eventually, others sense it. And they withdraw, not because you lacked intelligence, but because you lacked calm certainty. Why overthinkers struggle with authority. Authority is not about volume. It is about decisiveness. When you speak with hesitation, you subconsciously signal doubt. When you constantly revise your statements, you signal insecurity. Authority does not mean being right every time. It means committing to your position. Think about leaders, executives, commanders. They do not present 5 internal debates before speaking. They present a decision, right or wrong. The firmness carries weight. Overthinkers rarely project firmness because, internally, they are still debating. And that internal debate leaks through tone, through body language, through pacing. People feel it. And feeling it, they step over you. Not maliciously, but naturally. Power respects certainty. Turning the mind from reactive to strategic, now comes transformation. First, you must understand something disturbing. Most of your overthinking is not about the future. It is about identity. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of what failure means about you. You are not afraid of rejection. You are afraid of what rejection confirms. Your mind defends identity. But powerful individuals detach identity from outcome. They see outcomes as data, not definition. This is the shift. Instead of asking, "What does this say about me?" ask, "What does this teach me?" When identity is not on trial, thought becomes lighter, strategic, clean. Emotional overthinking dissolves when ego is removed from the equation. The 3-step Machiavellian reset. This is where precision begins. Step 1. Define the worst realistic outcome. Not dramatic, not catastrophic. Realistic. If I send this message, what is the realistic negative result? If I take this opportunity, what is the realistic loss? Write it down. Most overthinkers fear abstract disaster, but when written, the disaster shrinks. Step 2. Define your recovery plan. If the worst happens, what will you do next? The moment you see survival on paper, anxiety reduces. Overthinking thrives on imagined helplessness. When you see options, you regain power. Step 3. Execute before emotion builds again. Emotion rises with time. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. So once logic aligns, move. Send the message. Make the call. Take the step. Action interrupts rumination, and every completed action strengthens mental dominance. The paradox of detachment. There is a dark truth most people misunderstand. The less attached you are to the outcome, the more powerful you become. Overthinking is attachment amplified. You care too much about perception, about response, about validation, but detachment creates leverage. When you are okay with either result, yes or no, success or failure, acceptance or rejection, your energy changes. You speak differently, move differently, decide differently. People sense it. And sensing it, they respect it. Why? Because detachment signals abundance. It signals, I will be fine either way. That energy is rare, and rare energy attracts attention. Silence as dominance. Overthinkers fill silence quickly. They over-explain, over-justify, over-clarify. Powerful minds use silence intentionally. If someone says something provocative, pause, pause. If someone tests you, hold eye contact. If someone delays responding, do not rush to compensate. Silence forces the other person to interpret, and humans project their own fears into silence. Often, they reveal more than you would have discovered by speaking. This is controlled thinking, not frantic thinking. Silence is not weakness. Uncontrolled speech is. Killing the habit at its root. You cannot eliminate overthinking completely, but you can weaken its authority. Start small. Respond to simple things immediately. Choose a restaurant without a 10-minute debate. Reply to a text without rewriting it 5 times. Make minor decisions quickly. These micro decisions rewire confidence. Speed in small choices trains speed in large ones. Your brain learns, I can act and survive. Over time, survival becomes certainty. Certainty becomes identity. And identity shapes behavior. The final dark mirror. Ask yourself honestly, do you overthink because you are careful, or because you are afraid of losing control? Control is seductive, but real control is not over outcomes. It is over response. You cannot control how others interpret you. You cannot control random events. You cannot control every consequence. But you can control decisiveness, and decisiveness alone separates leaders from observers. Niccolò Machiavelli believed fortune favors the bold, not because boldness guarantees success, but because boldness guarantees movement. And movement changes probability. Overthinking changes nothing. It is mental motion without physical direction. The world belongs to those who convert thought into action, not those who drown in it. If you recognized yourself in this video, do not feel shame. Feel awareness. Awareness is dangerous in a good way, because once you see the pattern, you can no longer pretend it controls you. The next time your mind begins replaying a conversation, the next time it invents a catastrophe, the next time it delays your decision, pause. Ask one question. Is this strategy or fear? And whatever the answer is, act accordingly.